My name is Jakob, and I'm the creative lead here at CareerFoundry. And with me today is Alessandro, who is one of our career specialists. You may ask what career specialist is, what they do. So basically, what's really cool about CareerFoundry is that when you're halfway through your course, you are enrolled into a job prep course, and you work with your career specialist on creating your job search strategy, basically. So with their guidance, you refine your CV, your portfolio, you optimize your LinkedIn profile, and you prepare for your job interview. And in today's workshop, Alessandro will basically speak about how to prepare for your career and how to have a strategy and how to make it a success. So if you have any questions during Alessandro's talk, just pop them in the Q&A or in the public chat, and I'll be tuning back into the webinar room at the end to ask all these questions. So for now, I'll just let Alessandro take it away. Enjoy, and see you later.
So thank you, Jakob, and thank you, everybody. Welcome here. I'm Alessandro. Nice to meet you, everybody. It's not an interactive workshop, but we'll make it interactive at the end, hopefully with a little bit of question and answers. Maybe I give you a very short introduction of myself here. So I'm based in Barcelona. I start from the very bottom, and I am on one journey myself. So I was not in Barcelona before. I am on my own with a very good friend of mine, and we do Flow for Good. We are a consulting company with a mission of making organizations scalable and people-centric. And I have 10 years this year of HR expertise in tech and high-growth companies, especially in Berlin. And I work with CareerFoundry since November 2018 as a career specialist. I have a certification in coaching, systemic coaching and HR development, and I would say that's it for the moment. So we get started with the agenda. There are 3 key features of our job preparation course that I would like to walk you through, and these are the first 3 points of our agenda. First is the foundations of a career change. The second one is how we approach your old skills and your new skills. And the third one is what I call the basic career change equipment. So basically what you produce during your job preparation to go to market. Finally, I added a couple of slides for these very complicated times about the outlook of our industry. So what is actually happening in our industry right now with Corona. And I really wish to take some questions at the end of the presentation. So please feel free to write them in the chat as Jakob said. So let's get started. Why do I do it? Why do I do a career change? If you're here, it's because you're either already on a career change path, or you are almost there. You are deciding if to move along and to find the next job and to find another career for yourself. So the preparation to your career change is most of the times driven by some key triggers. And sometimes it's very hard to find a rationale behind them. So one of the first things that we try to understand during the job prep course is what's actually moving you. Each one of you can have a good reason to start a new career and opt in for our courses, but each one of you has a very peculiar reason for doing it. And since it's a very personal thing, that's where we start. And what I offer you right now is a quote by one of the most brilliant psychologists of the last century, which is James Hillman. And since maybe somebody is still living, then I would say take 15 seconds, go through it, and then I will tell you why we need this. The reason why I would like to start with this quote, and especially the highlighted part, it's because it's about the demon. The demon in his language is the force that drives you through whatever change. It's the calling, it's the voice inside of yourself, which basically is behind most of the career changes. One peculiar feature of this daemon is that it is out of the step with time, finding of all sorts and faults, gaps, and lots of flow of life, and it prefers them. So it basically is a troublemaker. Normally, you show some signs of being willing of taking a career change because you really need a change, so you don't feel comfortable where you are. And this is very helpful for starting a job preparation course, because this is basically the reason which keeps you going. This is what we are basically looking for when we start a journey with you. We are looking for your calling. How does it look like? The change elements of a career change, in my opinion, are basically three. If you start upright, you probably want to make more money than before. So you want a better job and a better condition than before. You want to go a little bit more above than break even. You are looking for a career path that would allow you to develop on the long run. So you probably want to learn more and more and more and more and more. And the key element, which I try to introduce with the demon idea, is that there is a fire inside of us. So some inspiration, there is some calling in you that justifies the fact that you choose your next step and you go along with it. So when we have these three elements and we know that there is something that really keeps you going at the end of the day, then we look into it. And these, within the job preparation course, transforms into a mission statement. Why do we write a mission statement during our job preparation course? And how does such a mission look like? We need to know how you envision the change. We need to understand what are the triggers and what is the end station of this change. What is the kind of job that you want? And for doing this, normally, we go through these kind of questions. We ask you, and we want an answer, what size is your target company? And is it a company at all? Are you going to look for a job in an NGO, in a governmental agency, in a public company, or in a private company? Is this big or small? It's like 15 people, or is it like a huge monster of more than 1,000? The second question is, in what cities are you looking for your new job? This criterion changes a lot the outcome of your job search at the end. If you're looking for a job in Berlin or in Arizona, probably you will have very different options in front of your eyes when it comes down to really pick an industry or a product or a company. And here we come to the third point. What kind of products and services are you looking to work for? Are you into fintech? Are you going to work for a bank? Are you going to work for a small startup delivering, I don't know, food to everybody? Or are you going to select your company out of some emerging tech and something that nobody did before? This will play a role in your career change, as well as the values of the company and organization that you're going to pick. So we're very curious to understand what are the points that triggers you next to your passion for the next job. And of course, eventually, we're going to talk about your skills. What are you bringing along from your previous experience? And what can be useful once you land the next job with us? I give you a couple of real-life examples that are quite recent and coming from my students. Of course, they are anonymous. And I try to highlight the parts that really make the difference at the end of the day. This is a student who is looking for a medium-sized creative agency or startup in the sustainable field. So meaning she's looking or he's looking for a sustainable company or a sustainable business model in the Netherlands. So it's a broad scope. She or he would like an informal work environment, the capability and ability to have independent work conditions, be part of the team, which values respect, and gain experience in the design field. This is one option. It's very personal, as I said. This is the second one that I brought along, which is mission statement of student was looking for a small and dynamic company in southern Germany and looking for a company which appreciates its employee and offer reasonable payment. He or she brings along problem-solving skills, design skills, and would really like to work in a team. So these are just a few examples of how this mission statement is going to look like. And what I can promise to you, the most precise you craft your mission statement, the easiest it's going to be to search for a job and land the job you want. It's about to understand what you envision and what you're burning for. So envision your change, keep the focus, and make it happen. Up next. One of the most common questions that arise during the job preparation course is, why would they hire me? Some people ask it straight away, some people ask the question implicitly. But still, in my personal opinion, there is a price to pay when you craft an authentic mission statement. So if you really want to go where you want to go, if you want to land the job of your dreams, if you want a new career in tech, and you're changing from another field, then one of the first things that's going to occur to you is to ask yourself this question: why would they hire you? Who are you? You are a newbie or not? Can you do the job? Why me among thousands of other candidates out there? And what you're changing is the industry, is the role, is the skills that you're going to use, et cetera, et cetera. So this is one of the most important things that we are going to face at the beginning of the career change and the job preparation course. And one of the first things that we're going to talk about in the job preparation course are your so-called transferable skills. So it's basically the story of where you come from. For giving you an example of what we're going to do there, I collected 4 quite common examples of career changers, so of jobs or professions that normally people come from. And I try to extract now on the slide some kind of key feature or key skills that this kind of job imply. So we have a customer care agent, we have a photographer, we have a journalist, we have an architect. They are going to change into tech. We're going to see how. Hello from Vancouver. Hi. Welcome. So we believe deeply that every job, every previous job has transferable skills. There is no previous experience that cannot convert into a transferable experience and skill set. So for a customer care agent, for example, you can think about a simply outstanding capability of listening. A photographer, on the other side, would have a surgical look into the pixels. A journalist, for sure, is very great at crafting the story. And an architect is a perfect end-to-end designer. It has to do with customers that need the house done, or the skyscraper. So when they change to tech, they might opt for this. A customer care agent is going to get into UX design. A photographer maybe is going to opt for a UI design course. And a journalist maybe is willing to become a data analyst. And the architect, a web developer. So as you see, you can always pick some skills from your previous career and use it for your next step. Since I wanted to challenge me a little bit, I said, okay, let's reshuffle everything and let's reshuffle the jobs on the right. Okay, let's see if we change the order of the things on the right, we will have to change the skills, of course. But let's see if it works. So I have a customer care agent becoming a data analyst, and he does this bridging between category and metric. Normally, when you work in customer care, you have to take care of the requests and the complaints that come in, and you categorize them, and you understand via metrics what's going to happen. So you already work with data, and you have to interpret them. A photographer, on the other side, would be proficient in color language if she or he wants to become a web developer. So we extract basically the skill of the color language proficiency to use it in the next job, and so on and so on. So the journalist would be empathetic about the insights into people's journeys, can become a user designer, a UX designer. An architect who is able and willing to build facades, designs, and is a champion at it. Maybe it changes into UI designer. So it creates the facade, the digital facade of some business. This is one of the foundations of the career change, to understand where you come from in terms of skills, in terms of what you learn, in terms of what you can offer next to the skills that you're going to gain, opting, for example, in the CareerFoundry programs. And this is a short list, a very short, boiled down list of what would you learn in our 4 programs. So a UX designer, for example, is going to be doing usability testing. A UI designer is going to learn for sure animation branding and UI design for portfolios. A web developer will have to do with server-side or client-side programming. And a data analyst, finally, would have for sure some touch point to SQL, Python, and so on. So these 2 things, these 2 categories, are going to be your special and personal match and blend to go to market. This is very important to us. This is very important to us because this is the only way to customize your career change in a tailor-made way. So basically, we can say that once you reach the point of time that you are ready to go to market, you would be forced, so to speak, to trade. And you are going to trade skills. And this is what we're talking about. You're going to look back, check your skills, your new skills, blend them together. And for this presentation, I created something new. It's called a value proposition blender. So it's an imaginary device that you pour your old profile into it, it mixes it, and then you come out with a pitch. So I'm going to tell you right away what a pitch is if you don't know it yet. But what you're basically doing as one of the first steps and one of the key features of our job preparation course is to bring the old skills inside, tell the new skills, and put everything within the mission statement framework. So these 2 things must fit in your goal. They must be strategic. They have to pay off to land the job that you chose. So we coaches, we stand by you, we listen to you, we provoke you, we ask you questions, we try to find answers together with you. But at the end of the day, your framework, your mission statement, and your luggage full of new and old skills is what you're going to make land the job. So at the end of the day, and this is one of the most important features of the job preparation course, you're going to craft with us an elevator pitch. What is an elevator pitch? An elevator pitch normally is a sales tool to sell a product to somebody. Imagine that you take an elevator with your next potential CEO. Imagine that you have 30 seconds. If it's going to the next floor, probably less. You have 20 seconds or maybe 10 seconds to tell in a nutshell who you are, what you have to offer. So look back the skills that you crafted with us and what you want, what kind of job you want, what kind of difference you're ready to make in that very company. So this is one of the features that keeps us busy at the very beginning of the course. And since you are going to trade in skills, then this is going to be one of the most powerful and viable ways for you to go to market and land a job. And since it's not a sales training, that's very important to mention. It's not a sales training. It's not just to teach you how to craft the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch in this very context is very important because it's a tool of presentation to the next employer, but at the same time, it's a tool of self-discovery. Crafting an elevator pitch, you will see growing out of your hands what kind of profile you are becoming. And this is something you can understand at this level of depth only after you do it. You write it, we have a look at it, you enact it, and you have to know it by heart at the end of the day. So it's a very short presentation about yourself, and it's a tool that would help you to discover a little bit yourself and, of course, grow a lot in self-confidence. If you have any question, I just mentioned it yet now, by the way, please feel free. They don't cost anything. So just pop them into the chat. We're going to take care of it. Will these slides be shared? Okay, we'll come back to it. I think so. I think so. I think so. So let's move on. How does this look like? The key of this question is to understand how does your career change looks like, but not from your point of view. Now it's about saying and seeing how does it look like from the point of view of your potential employer. So let's have a look at it. And for displaying a little bit the topic, I dug into my memory, and I found some quotes from my previous hiring manager. So being in HR for a couple of years lets you face a lot of these things, because people are looking for personnel, and they have a hard time, especially in the tech industry, to find the right people with the right skills and the right mindset. So I remember somebody saying, I need somebody who really thinks out of the freaking box now. I don't just need anybody or the friend of a friend. Or at this stage of the company, we're looking for talents that can fit a hyper-growth and be 100% adaptive. On the other side, I had hiring managers saying, for this role, for this very role, I'm looking for a smart personality, somebody willing to learn. I don't care how much experience, because the market doesn't offer these tons of experience at the moment. And the fourth one would say, I'd rather hire a profile with 100% hands-on than an experienced clerk. I don't care. I want the people with the right mindset. I have a problem when I sit on the hiring manager side. This is something that I try to make very clear to students when we come to chat, that it's two parties talking about the job with two different views on the job and two different pain points on the job. So let's see, how does it look like when you've done all the things that we said before, transformed into something tangible when you actually go to market? So before we enter the details, I would like to say that maybe, this is my personal opinion, once you enter the tech industry, you would be surrounded, or you would encounter a lot, not all of them, but a lot of outcome-driven organizations. What do I want to say? Since your work is digital, is seeable, you can put it in a portfolio. Yeah, you can put it on your LinkedIn. You can put it wherever you want in the digital world. So your apps, your development, your code, your projects of data analysis, they are viewable from somebody who is not sitting in the same room. And this is a key feature of this industry. You can say, or you can prove, or you can explain what you have been doing, just creating a portfolio of what you do. So I'm introducing you into the key tools of applying in the tech industry. The first one is the resume. This is, of course, not specific. You apply with a resume everywhere. The way we use the resume, however, in our job preparation course is to structure it in a way that first, it can be read in a very short period of time, In 10 seconds, I need to have a very clear impression of what you've been doing. And for doing this, we normally structure it in this way. We have a pitch. We're talking about it before, you remember? So, hi, it's me, I offer these, and that's what I want. Boiled down to 4 or 5 lines. You have a picture, in Europe at least, normally you use a picture, in the US less, but you have, of course, a way of presenting yourself, and put at the very top of the CV what you want to do. UI designer, UX designer, data analyst, whatever, but it's you. Name, surname, title, or job that you want to land. And then a lot of context. You're going to be present. Of course, you're going to have an email. You're going to have a professional email address. You're going to have a LinkedIn portfolio or a LinkedIn site. You're going to have, of course, a phone number if you want to be contacted that way, and a couple of websites that is going to show what you've been doing so far. This is very important. This is key. So the end of the day of the first section is, I know who you are, I know what you want, and I know where I can find you. The second section, where the body, it's a little bit more complex. You have an in-depth description of your CareerFoundry certification if you work with us. So if you've been doing UX with us, you probably have a very clear description of what you've been doing in CareerFoundry, how many hours, what kind of projects, what kind of tools, and so on. Your career history, so your work experience, in this case, at the bottom of the CV, is going to be results-oriented. We want to craft the CV in a way that whoever reads understands not what you are responsible for, but what you actually done. This is one of the very, very, very important features that we work with. This is one way to show and to let the other understand that you've been achieving something that could make the difference in that organization. And nowadays, we have a lot of CVs with panels left and right. So after the content, you probably see a lot of lists with including skills, old and new, tools and other things that your profile brings along. So you work a lot with keywords because you want your reader to be quick in understanding who you are and again, what you offer. What is the difference that you are going to make there? This is the big question that whatever recruiter and hiring manager is going to ask themselves when they receive your application package. And we are here to craft it with you in the best possible way. Another piece of this change is the portfolio. I brought another real life example, and I have to thank my students that managed to give me some very, very great materials. In this portfolio, for example, we are talking about a UX profile, and you see on the portfolio, the first thing you see is a pitch. I am A, and I do this and this, and I offer this and this, please contact me. The other features that normally appear here are the link to all the new projects. That's something you want to bring along because it fits the new position. An about me section to tell a little bit more where you come from, what is your added value, what are your hobbies if you want, who are you as a personality, and of course a contact form because you want to make sure that whoever lands on this portfolio takes action and contacts you for having an interview, a coffee, a phone chat, whatever. Just to have a clear understanding where we're going, you send an application package. The first thing that happens, I read your CV. The second thing that might happen, but not always happens, I read your cover letter. The third thing that is going to happen, if I'm interested in what you do, I'm going to click on your portfolio and see what you have done. So you will basically have your CV and or cover letter as a landing page to go somewhere else. This is where you want to bring your reader. This is where you want to convince him or her that you are the right person for the job. And of course, the most important feature of a portfolio is the project retrospective. So you want to show in detail, how did your project look like? What have you done? And normally students upload these kind of screens in the portfolio, the methods that you used and the outcomes. If they use, for example, to make research and user persona, they would display the user persona on the portfolio and explain why they did it and what was it useful for. Same for information architecture and all the things that you do during a UX, a UI, a web development, or a data analysis project. And at the end, when you will have a final product, and this is something that it happens in our both main course and job preparation course, you're going to have one or more projects which are going to be described in a very detail, and they're going to have a final product at the end. So you're going to be able to display what you've done, and there's going to be no need anymore to explain your skills. Your skills are going to be displayed by facts. This is outcome-driven organizations. These things are explained by facts. And in this case, we have, for example, a magnificent example, which is it's a walkthrough as a video in the app that I designed. What other question could I have as a recruiter if I see this? Either I like it, very possible, and I invite you, or I don't like it, and maybe I don't invite you, but chances are that for sure I'm going to have the answer to my question, which is, how does this person work? So we have the first question. Very good. I encourage you again, please write your questions. We're going to come back to them as soon as the presentation is over, and I think it's almost over. So the portfolio just said, by the way, it's a piece of the application package, which is very important. So I repeat, but it works for all kinds of tech jobs. I would say even for non-tech jobs. So I will need to do a portfolio myself. But for the 4 curricula that we are offering, for sure the portfolio is the thing to do. So your work in one word, your work tells your skills. And we move on. So after we've seen the 3 key features of the job preparation, just said, by the way, these are only really the tip of the iceberg. There's much more going on behind the scenes. My colleagues will do a lot more with you the visible things like elevator pitch, curriculum like resume and portfolio and all the work around the strategy, it's only a little part of it. There is much more. Of course, it's not possible to display it in this presentation, but believe me, it's a cool journey that most of the people use really to land the next job. And now I would like to talk about the context you're going into. So if you are a career changer, what you're going to do with our programs is to make the first step, the first successful step into the tech industry. And I gathered, let me go back 1 second. I gathered some figures because, as everybody knows, we are in troubled times. So there is a lot of uncertainty about jobs, about careers, about what is going to happen next, and how this pandemic situation is going to affect the way we live and the way we work. So I tried to gather some numbers, but I try to not to answer your doubts if you're going to find a job or not at the end. What I would like to focus on with you is to understand where is the trend going? Where is the trend going? What is going to happen possibly within the next decade, even taking into account what happens now with COVID. So the first thing I found is something which happened before COVID, and this is a statistic by IT industry organization in the USA, where they projected that 46% of the whole growth, so not 46% of the industry, this is the growth, 46% of the whole growth of the tech industry in the US, worldwide, until 2023, is going to be driven by MTech growth drivers, so by emerging technologies. This is something which was published back in November 2019, and displays a little bit how the different sections of these industries are going to grow. Like software is going to be 50% more than now, hardware 23%, and so on and so on. The very key information here: before COVID, there were people projecting the growth of this industry based on new technologies. Then COVID happened, and we need to have a look at other numbers. And the best I have found, unfortunately for the European market, I think you can have a feel about the US market with this as well, is a study by the McKinsey Global Institute, which compared a couple of factors and came out with these statistics that the STEM, so the science, technology, engineering, and math professions, are going to go under a growth of 25% between 2018 and 2030, considering COVID as well. This study was published in June of this year, so the day before yesterday, so to speak, and gives a lot of hope for people working in this industry, so for me as well, and would basically encourage to take a step towards a career change into the tech industry. The thing is that the very interesting thing in this study is the motivation of this kind of numbers, is the story that's behind them. The McKinsey Institute says basically that the COVID pandemic is going to accelerate a lot what was already happening in the European market, which is a loss of a lot of jobs because of automations. So if you're not working on an assembly line, so to speak, then you're probably not going to lose your job, because if you're working in an assembly line, you're going to lose your job because the job probably is going to be automated soon with robots, with software, with whatever. So the really at-risk categories are hospitality, manufacturing, and this kind of stuff. This is basically the chart displaying that out of the 51 million jobs at risk from automation, 24 millions overlap with the COVID crisis. So there is a clear trend going into the acceleration of this process, which was happening even before the pandemic. Of course, nobody knows what's going to happen, but the trend, especially for this industry, seems to be quite good. So I'm not going to say that there are going to be more jobs than before, but for sure, there are still some key drivers that have not been affected by the COVID, apparently. And here I have the final slide about these numbers. So this is a very smaller population, because this is a set of numbers pulled from Crossing, so New World Crossing, which is a very famous platform in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria, where you see that the people that answer the question, to what extent has the situation of your colleagues changed, they basically answer that there was no change, mainly. There are some 4% of the whole region with layoffs, and 37% went into short time, plus 2% of very strange measures, like you move your employees to some friend companies. But the point is, the main target group of this platform are people who are not working on assembly line. These people having a profile in Crossing are not going to be fired because the job is going to be automated, but they are people like you working in a creative, tech, or whatever other industry. And this seems to support the thesis of the other study. It's a very, very tough topic. I don't want to pick a side. I want to be very honest with you, but this is the latest things that I found out there would encourage me first to have a job in the tech industry rather than not. Moving a little bit forward, what do I want to say, taking the example of the COVID crisis? One of the things that happens almost regularly in the job preparation course is coming to the turn where people have to face the fact that they become high qualified workforce. You become high qualified workforce. This has implication for you. This means that you're not going to search for a job like the way you were searching it before. There are probably less jobs now than in 2018. Okay, I buy it. But you're still high qualified workforce. Not everybody is able to design an app or a service, or to build a website, or to make great data analysis. So starting from this understanding of ourselves after the course, after the main program, after the job preparation course, then we're going to land in a context that we have to take into account. So I try to give you a very personal look and feel of what I've seen in real tech organizations. Some recurring traits, so to speak, normally are decentralized or distributed, okay? They have an HQ maybe, but especially now under the COVID crisis, then everybody's working remotely, and it does work. Normally, they opt for the way of diverse. They want to open their doors to whoever brings talent in, regardless where they come from, the background, the color of the skin, if you are Italian or if you come from wherever else, your gender, your political views, whatever. They are cross-functional. They need to be cross-functional. Normally, to build up this kind of tech products, you need the effort and the joint effort of a lot of teams, a lot of functions, a lot of brains. They are normally people-centric, and I'm going to tell you in a few seconds why. And normally, so 90% of the times, they have at least a big part of the organization working agile. And the question is, and I think this is the right question to ask now, before the career change and during the career change, why? Why like this? Why are these organizations going this way, rather than be very hierarchical, being very straightforward, being a little bit machist maybe, or something like this? The idea that, my personal idea of it, and what I've seen through my experience, is very simple. If it's not out of the core beliefs and values of the founders and managers, because the people really want to build a company like this, it's because there is no other way to hire this kind of high qualified workforce. So this is a double message. Companies have a big pain because they need the talent. And the second message is, if you change your career, then you probably need to keep this bar high. High qualified workforce means, for you as well, that you can basically pick one job among some jobs. Not all the jobs, because this is going to be a little bit too much, but you can choose between one job rather than the other. And my advice is to go for quality. So if you want to really have a job in that kind of company, with this size, with this product, you've seen it before, then go for it and check these things. This organizational setup tells you a lot about how people are working, a lot about people are interacting with each other, about the values of the founders, of the teams, about the leadership in this organization. It's very, very important to have a healthy career change, to land in an organization that you want to work at, that you can develop into, that you find some very great senior manager teaching you the basic skills and beyond. So entering from your previous job, whatever it is, to the next one is a change of context that would make a huge difference when you start the real job search. And that's it. The question is, do you feel ready? Are you already doing? Do you have questions? For sure, at the end of the presentation, my big wish to you, whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, is to do it with a very good spirit and land the job you love. So that said, I would probably give the word back to Jakob.
Yeah, thanks so much, Alessandro. That was a really good ad for our job prep course, I think. So don't forget to connect with Alessandro on LinkedIn. And we have a few questions. So one question from Monica. If we come back maybe to the, let me click through. Yeah, that was a question about the CV. So basically, Monica is asking, is the resume template the standard look for the tech job?
I will answer you in a very straightforward way, in a negative way. Don't pick the European CV standard. So this is the first thing that you should do, in my opinion. We don't actually work with resume templates. One thing that I normally advise students to do is to have a look at Behance. You for sure know the website, and check for free resume templates. I did it myself, even if I'm not in UX or UI or in development. And you would find very, very great templates that you can use either in Sketch, so in a very particular platform, or I use, for example, PowerPoint. So go out there and try to find the best fit for you. To give a very ugly answer, I would say the trend now is have a body in the middle, a header with a pitch, and a panel on the left or on the right where you can put contact skills and so on. But the best thing is to make it custom fit, because you're working on customization. So you want a dress or you want a shoe that you really feel comfortable with. And I really wish that students get creative about it, especially if you are in design or in UX or UI design.
Great, and kind of related to that question, and I also wonder that actually, because I'm quite often recruiting. Do you think we should be sharing photos and age on our CVs and our resumes? Adding a photo or a date of birth can cause some bias.
Yeah, I would. So there were some studies, some really serious studies about the biases. Pretty much of the studies agree on the fact that if you put whatever that identifies you with a group, then creates prejudice on the other side. I would answer the question as well from, let's say, from the cultural point of view. So in the US, I know being factually not really used to put a picture. In Europe, you would probably put the picture. So talking about the picture, my advice to students is in Europe to put a picture to create a bond with the reader. So if I see your face, I can empathize with it a little bit better if the resume is blank. It's not a must. So you can technically apply without picture. Don't get me wrong. If you don't want to put a picture, don't put it. The other thing, and if you put it right. So you need a professional portrait. It's not, please don't do a snapshot with your phone or something like this, or no sunglasses, nothing like this. It must be a professional picture. The second thing is the legal framework. In Europe, at least, there is a law that protects from discrimination. It's a European law. It breaks down to country laws, like in Germany, in Spain, in Italy, and so on. So nobody requires your date of birth, your marital status, and your discapacity or whatever. Don't put them. Just don't put them. They don't need it. If they hire you, then they're going to ask you if you have children, if you have any kind of religion, blah, 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 because they need to process your payroll. But this is going to happen normally after you sign the contract. So before the contract, every question going in that direction, first is suable by law. Mm-hmm. If you really want to have some fun, then you can do it. But coming back to our CV, don't need it. So go for a nice statement, a nice pitch, a professional portrait, smiling. Here I am. That's what I'm offering. Please invite me to an interview.
Great.
I hope I answered the question.
Great advice. Is it ever too late for a career change? I'm 44 and a career change at my age is quite scary.
No, that's a very drastic answer. No, never too late. I would go back to the very first slide. Listen to your calling. This is going to keep you going. This is going to make you make the change, even if you are at the very end of your career, you can still make a career change. And we do have students that take the step at that age, and we can see the success. So I wouldn't advise not to listen to it.
Question from Kat. Would you advise the future employee to get in touch with their favorite future boss on LinkedIn prior to application?
Yeah, that's a very nice one. So I give you two options, then you decide, okay? The first option is like, hi, how are you doing? You have a job listed. Do you want to connect? So that's basically sales pitch, first level. It's probably going to be dangerous for your career. Don't do it. So if you reach out to somebody out there, regardless if it's a boss, if it's an hiring manager, it's a recruiter, stick to the facts. Have a look at their portfolio, have a look at the company, ask questions that show that you're really interested into the company, and try to get onto a conversational level with them. I think it's going to be very difficult. It happens. It does happen. So you can pitch, and if you do it right, you can pitch for a job right away, but don't expect to be answered. And don't take it as a matter of unpoliteness if you don't do, because you know how big the LinkedIn community is, and you can imagine as soon as you reach a decision-making position, how many kind of messages you're going to receive. So you're probably going to be bothered by it. But if you go for it, which is not something I would exclude, then really go for it. Then really pitch them. Or pick the phone, speak with the secretary, say, is Mr. Müller there? I don't know, I'm his friend. Can you give me through? Hello, I'm Alessandro. I offer this and this service. I want the job. Can you please invite me? If you want to do it, then do it. But you have to have a really, really solid pitch. And you really need to have very clear ideas of what you want. But take into account that probably they're going to be bothered by it.
And also, just from my personal hiring experience, you really need to make sure that you research who is hiring. So you just don't bother some random poor person from a company that has nothing to do with the job listing. I check job listings pretty much daily. In more than 90% of these listings, companies and agencies ask for around 3 to 5 years of experience in UX and UI, even for entry and junior positions. I understand that HR uses this to shape the ideal candidate profile, but how important is it really?
Very good question. If I got €1 for each time that I got this question, I would probably reach. So there is, in my opinion, one way to understand what to do in the different situations. If you have the feeling that's an entry-level job, that's what you said. They're asking 3 to 5 years of experience for an entry-level job. How do you know that's an entry-level job? So if you have the good feeling that's an entry-level job, and you see that this 3 to 5 years requirement does not match any specific task of the job ad, then probably it's a way to pre-filter the candidates. It was a way to gather the requirements from the hiring manager. It's not really related to the profile. The real question is, when you look at the task, can you do at least 80% to 70% of the job? If the answer is yes, then go for it. Okay? If they're looking for a VP UX, and they are looking for 7 years of experience, then you probably can think that this 7 years of experience relate to the leadership role. And if you don't have it, then probably you're going to waste your time by applying. But if there is no relation between the years of experience and the tasks, and you have the feeling you can do the job, just go for it.
Great, thank you. Another good question, and especially I think right now when a lot of networking events don't really happen. How important is networking in landing a job? Besides LinkedIn, are there any other networking opportunities we should be taking part in?
Well, they say, I don't believe it because it's very difficult to measure, but they say that 80% of the job market is invisible, so it doesn't appear on a job ad. If this is true, let's say that only 40% of the market is invisible. So you have quite a good chances to find out what company is looking for somebody before or during they are crafting a real job ad. So the advice is, yes, it's important. Go for it. The channels that you're going to use, it depends a little bit on your style. LinkedIn is for sure the platform at the moment where you can network. Networking opportunities can be anywhere. If you're not into lockdown, you go to a coffee and maybe you listen to somebody speaking about something, and you can join in. If you're very extroverted, normally there is something in between. Normally you go to an event. Normally you go to some place where you're listening to a presentation about industry trends, products, tools, and there are people that share the same interests as you. So this is where you normally can find advice, you can find feedback, you can find great people to network with. So the idea of the network is never that you're going to land a job straightforward. It's very, very rare. You have to use the network to get what you want and what you can get from the network, which normally is information, friends, advice, feedback, and make the connection with the person. The more it happens in the real world, the more it happens on face-to-face, the higher is the chance that the relationship is going to last longer, and maybe they will come back to you on a longer term because they see your portfolio maybe. Mm-hmm. So it's not an exact science, but I would definitely use all the channels that suits you. Events, LinkedIn, Crossing, I don't know. I don't have any others in my mind right now. Write me, maybe I will have some other answers tomorrow or tonight.
Somebody mentioned meetup.com as one of the resources. How can you make your job history look good when you've had a lot of short-term jobs or look like a job hopper?
Okay, if you look like a job hopper, it means that you are not. So if you are not, we have to find out why you are not. So there must be for sure a story behind it. There must be a story why you drifted from one job to the other, and what is the decision making behind it. So the tricky part here is not really at the end is the facade. So it's what you read in your CV, but the most important thing is to understand the real story behind the job hopping or what looks like it. So it's a very tough question to answer without a real case. I would give a very general advice. If you stick to the rule that you present your achievements, then you probably mitigate and lower the risk that the people are not interested in what you did, even if it was on short term. Anyways, you can expect the question, what will you be doing between the job and the other? And then I advise you to create an authentic, but still very powerful story to understand or to let understand why you made this decision rather than the other, or why you didn't do apparently nothing. Maybe you were on a trip.
Alessandro, do you have any surprising career changers? Is it really true that anybody can enter into the tech world?
I have one of my favorite ones, and he's not there to listen, is somebody who studied physics and nanotechnology. And so it's a very specific field. It's a very high qualified work, but wants to change into UI, and is doing quite a good job. So it's very interesting to see how even a very, very specific niche or specialization can offer the opportunity to look at the previous skills as transferable skills, coming back to the second part of the presentation. Otherwise, personally, I have the luck in CareerFoundry to see really a lot of backgrounds, very different backgrounds. And at the moment, I don't have any very, very specific in mind. Nanotechnology is something that I really remember. But just to go back to one of the examples of the presentation, photography for operas. Oh. This is something very specific. Not a lot of people does it, but it's something that you can translate into new job if you have the trained eye to look for transferable skills, and this is happening as well.
Great. How long does a UX newbie need to work in the junior position before entering a senior position?
Ooh. It depends. So let me give you one of these lawyer answer. It depends. What it depends on, there are some companies, if the company is small, it doesn't actually depend much on you. Okay, let's start with this. If the company is small and they don't have many ways to retain people, then probably they would go for one of the cheapest way to retain them, which is giving them a senior title. This is one option. Okay, so probably you need 1 year, because they want to retain you. You make a great job, you do a great job, and I need a tool to retain you. This happens, it's not very healthy. In more structured companies or more enlightened companies, normally this happens after a certain while. And it depends as well what comes with the senior. Sometimes with the senior comes the responsibility on a small team. Sometimes comes the duty of explaining very technical stuff to newbies without having any lead on them. So it really depends on how the organizational culture is, what comes with the title. Is it a race or is it just the title, as we said before? I would say if you are in a junior position, which is title junior, so let's say that you start now, 12th of August 2020, and 2021, same date, you are with junior, then I would probably ask my boss if we can remove the junior at least. Yeah, but eventually, if you go back to the content of the presentation, if you have a great portfolio, you can even work 10 years with a junior, in my opinion, and people are going to hire you for the position you want. So for sure, this is not going to happen. It's an extreme example, but give it some time, see where the organization is going. And my advice would be try to picture very precisely what does the senior means, and especially what does it mean to you? What does it mean senior to you? That would be a great job coaching call. Why do you want a senior job and what are you expecting? And what can you do now to get senior sooner rather than later?
I think we have time just for another question.
One question.
What types of skills will be transferable for remote working?
For remote working, transferable skills for remote working. But remote working is not a job. So the concept of transferable skills is not really applicable here. Let's say that if you were consulting clients between one city and the other because you were a consultant and you were used to work at the fuel station because you needed to answer emails, that would make a good fit for somebody else to work from home because you're used to work basically from everywhere. But remember, the transferable skills relate only to a job, not to geographical position.
Great. And with that, let's wrap up. So Alessandro, thank you once again, and thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, and I know there were a couple of questions about entering web development or one of our programs like UI design course, just after this webinar, you'll be redirected to a career advisor booking page where you can book a call with one of our career advisors, and they will be able and very happy to answer any questions you have about your career change, one of our programs, or payment plans, whatever you want to talk about, they will talk about basically. So once again, thank you for joining, and I hope to see you online soon.
Thank you very much from my side as well. Reach out if you have any other questions. I'm almost always online. Okay.